Hello folks, welcome back to the channel. It's Stephen here. Today we're going to be continuing on with our Harry Potter series. The first video that I made on Harry Potter on the channel was my top 5 unpopular Harry Potter opinions. If you haven't watched it, please go ahead and check it out and let me know what you think. Today I'm going to be bringing you a video that's fully focused on Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. We're just going to get into it. I'm going to give you my top 5 reasons why I feel this book is such a disappointment. I will start the video off by saying, like I did in the last Harry Potter video, I am a massive Harry Potter fan. I've read and reread the series countless times. I grew up with it. It's one of those things that as I continue to reread the series, I still love it, but I realise there are certain things in it that just don't work. Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows is a book for me that just does not work. There are definitely things in the book that are redeemable and things that I do enjoy, and I will always finish the book. But hopefully you'll see in this list there are just some major issues that I have with it. Okay, so we'll start off with number 5. This is my 5th reason as to why I feel this book just did not work. It's mainly focused around pacing and structure of the book. I get the first 6 books have a similar structure. We know Harry is at Privet Drive at the start of every book. He then moves usually to the Burrow or another place, and then he goes to Hogwarts and he has his year, and we have the dramatic event that happens at the end of each book. In book 7, JK has clearly taken a departure to the tried and trusted structure. I understand why. He's no longer in Hogwarts, so it was an opportunity to take our favourite characters, take them out of Hogwarts for a book, and let's see how they get on. The biggest issue with this is we had so much happening at the start, we had so much happening at different parts towards the end of the book, that this middle part of the book is really, really boring. I don't know anyone who enjoys reading about Harry, Ron and Hermione camping. There's 3 or 4 chapters, especially when Ron disappears, and I get, they go certain places, they go to Godric's Hollow, etc. But overall, those chapters are really hard to read, and it's just such a real difficult period of the book to get through. So yeah, that's my 5th biggest issue with the book, is that it's structurally, it's just a wee bit all over the place. Number 4 is, I feel that JK tried to just take all our favourite places and throw them into the book. This never actually occurred to me before during my rereads. I just finished the 7th book the other day, and what occurred to me was that we really go to nearly every place that's ever been mentioned throughout Harry Potter. So if you think about it, we've got Privet Drive at the start, we've got the Burrow, we end up going to Grimmauld Place, we end up in the Ministry of Magic, we end up in Gringotts at one point, we also are in Hogsmeade at one point, we're at Hogwarts, we even end up in King's Cross during a weird dream sequence that just also didn't work for me. We are even in the Shrieking Shack, the Hog's Head, and I think at one point of the book we are in a field that the Quidditch World Cup was played. There might be other places that we visited that I just haven't sort of thought of off the top of my head, but I just feel like JK probably had a list of all the places she wanted us to go to, and our characters were just dragged through them all, and it was like a checkbox exercise. It's like, yep, we've done King's Cross, we've done Privet Drive, we've done the Burrow, we've done Gringotts, we've done Hogwarts, we've done Hogsmeade, we've done the Shrieking Shack. It's like, it's just a bit jarring reading it back now, knowing that we're just getting trailed through each of these places. Number 3, my 3rd least favourite aspect of this book is focused on the 7 Potters. I had a similar issue when I talked about the Triwizard Tournament in my previous video. I feel like there was an easier way for Moody to get Harry to Voldemort rather than putting him through a Triwizard Tournament. I also kind of feel that in this book there's an easier way. Surely there's an easier way to get Harry from Privet Drive to the Burrow. First of all, I understand he went back to Privet Drive to say like an awkward goodbye to the Dursleys, which was awkward to read about. But him even going there in the first place, it didn't really make sense. He said he was going there because he promised Dumbledore. and his mother's protection will keep him safe for another wee while. But I also feel that, I mean, he's been on the run and he's been camping and he's been kept safe, so he didn't necessarily really need to go back there in the first place. And then the idea of getting him out there by having 7 people who are just like him and trying to fly him out would not have made more sense for maybe someone to turn up, maybe like Tonks, who could have changed their appearance to look like anyone, to then give Harry Apologies potion of a random person and then make his way from a burrow from there. Or even, he could have caught the bus. Even something that's silly, like I just feel like this book was, or this chapter was written just to show that there is a war going on. It's to kill Mad Eye and to kill Hedwig, to show that there is consequences. But I just feel like, obviously my idea of Tonks coming up, I've just thought it out of the top of my head, but I just feel like there's a better way of him getting there. Number 2. So I've talked about my number 2 in my unpopular video. It is the 19 years later section of this book. The 19 years later section of this book does not work at all. And it's funny because whenever I first read this, as 15 or so when it came out, the book worked in its entirety for me. I loved it. I was so satisfied with the ending. I was so satisfied with the conclusion. I wouldn't hear from anyone that they did not like this book. But during rereads, I've just realised that how awkward is that 19 years later. I mentioned before that we know these characters right from their 11 to their 16, and then to be shown these characters again when they're nearly 40, like I just felt immediately detached from who they were. I also felt that Ron and Hermione didn't really work as a couple, so to see them married, it was just awkward. And for Ron to then confront a Muggle, I mean, surely the whole point of this here book, the whole series, is that Muggles should be treated equally. We're all human. That's the difference between Voldemort and Harry. And I understand that Ron didn't hurt any Muggles or anything like that there, but the fact that he was just blatantly just confronting someone because he couldn't be bothered to learn to drive is crazy, to the point that I can't believe Hermione would have been okay with that. Maybe she didn't know. I think she didn't know. But even Harry, to laugh at that, was like, come on guys, surely you've had a bit of growth here. But yeah, the whole naming his kids after these people, it was just awkward. And the 19 years later for me was just badly done. And it was just kind of like a fairy tale ending to a book that didn't really need it. Okay, so this is going on to number 1. My biggest gripe with the book was, and is, that there was such a loss of potential. I loved the aspect of book 4 when Harry came out of the graveyard and Fudge didn't believe that Voldemort was back. I love the fact in the 5th book that it's the Ministry against Harry and Dumbledore. I love in the 6th book we see that they were right and there is an uprising and Voldemort's coming back and he's getting stronger, and we hear all about families losing loved ones. We hear the Daily Prophet coming. We're hearing all these stories. We know we're on the brink of a war here. And then in the 7th book, we just never got the war. We got a big battle at Hogwarts at the end. But this, to me, I always compare Harry to Frodo in Lord of the Rings, because I think they're very similar characters. The fact that Frodo was pure enough to destroy the ring, and he was the only one who would have been able to get it to destruction without being influenced by the ring. And I also think that's similar to Harry in the sense that he is so pure and full of love that he would never turn bad. But could you imagine watching The Return of the King and only watching the Frodo story and not seeing everything else that was going around in the world, all the wars and the backstory? You just watch Frodo. They would not make it for a very good movie. And I feel like the biggest problem with this book was they focused so much on just Harry on his own with Ron and Hermione without really expanding on what was going on in the world. I did like seeing it. I loved the coup of the Ministry. We get the wireless section in it where we find out what's going on at different parts of the world. We also have Ron coming back telling us about Snatchers. But I feel like this could have been done so much better. We could have seen so much more. I don't understand why maybe Harry didn't take over the Order of the Phoenix and being the one who dished out where Lupin's going, where's Kingsley going, what I need Bill to do, to really take control of the situation and be the leader, rather than hiding and camping and looking for these Horcruxes. I just felt we could have had so much more potential there. Because let's just face it, Voldemort is out of the country for most of this book. So to me, the Order of the Phoenix and the Death Eaters, surely if you build up the Order of the Phoenix, they can take on the Death Eaters if Voldemort's not around. I just felt that there could have been more done to really show us the civil war that was going on. So yeah, that is my top 5 unpopular, well, maybe that's popular, my top 5 reasons why I feel this book is a disappointment. I have tons more on why this book didn't really work for me. honorary mentions would be introducing things like wand lore into the mix without ever really explaining that in previous books. Introducing the Hallows. Like, these are two major things that they introduced into this book solely on its own, and I feel like it was just tacked on at the end just to make the story make sense. But yeah, I've got a ton of other reasons why the book didn't work. I do still enjoy reading the series, and I do still get something out of the ending, but the more I reread it, the more and more I get so disappointed with how this one turned out. I would love to be wrong on some of these points. Please, if you disagree with anything that I'm saying, let me know in the comments below. I understand that I'm just spitballing here. And I get it, it's JK's book, she wrote them, she can do whatever she wants with them, but I just can't help but feeling a wee bit disappointed how it turns out. Alright folks, I'm going to wrap it up there. If you enjoyed this type of content, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't done so already, please remember to subscribe to the channel. Alright, peace out.